Hey, and welcome to a new video. And this week we are going to be looking at website design and development myths, and we're going to bust some of the most common website design and development myths that we see clients get on a preconceived notion on a regular basis. So, moving straight into busting some myths, let's have a look at the first myth. So, the first myth, myth number one, is a website is a one-time investment. This is just simply not true. So when it comes to having a website for your business, you need to keep in mind quite a few things. First one is website hosting. Now, somebody will build you a website, or you can build your own website, but you need somewhere to store that website. And so that is what website hosting is. Now, there are cheap hosts out there and there are good hosts out there. And you might pick up a cheap hosting platform for $10, $20 a year. But a good hosting platform is probably going to set you back $30 to $60 a month just for the hosting alone. However, it depends on your website, because if you've got a really heavy, intensive, e-commerce site, for example, then you might need a dedicated server or something like that, and that could cost you several $100s a month. The next thing on our list is maintenance. So just like a car needs a service on a regular basis, so does a modern website. Most modern websites, if they're built on platforms like WordPress or Joomla or any of those, have complex working components that need to be updated on a regular basis. Now, most business owners don't understand what is needed when it comes to doing the maintenance on the website, and they're a little bit worried that they're going to break things. But you'll find that many website development companies will offer what they call a care plan or a maintenance and support plan. These generally start from as low as $30 a month up to $1,000 a month. It just depends on what's included in those plans. And usually in those plans, it includes things like updates to the platform itself, updates to the plugins, general maintenance, tidy up of your database, things like that, monitoring to make sure the website stays online, checking for performance and things like that, as well as broken links, because broken links are quite important, especially if if you think about your viewer, they're coming to your website, they're looking for a piece of information, they click on a link and it goes nowhere. They're going to have a bad experience with your business because of that. So moving on, the next part of this myth is domains. So a domain is like your street address, your PO box. It is where people find your website on the internet. So a domain goes hand in hand with hosting. If you think about it this way, your domain is your street address, your hosting is your block of land, your website is actually your house. And then obviously you've got things like security, and if you want to think of it in the same analogy, that's your guard dog or your alarm system. A domain will generally set you back $20 to $100 a year, depending on what type of domain it is. Most of the standard domains are usually between $20 and $50 a year. Some registrars will offer you a discount for registering for 2, 3, 4, 5 years at once. But not all domains are able to be registered for 5 years at once. And some domains you'll be needed to have a registered business in the country that corresponds to that domain. Next one is security. So you want to look at having an SSL certificate, and you want to look at making sure that you've got a good quality security plugin installed on the website. This is not a preventative thing anymore. In fact, most websites that we maintain generally are seeing, a few hundred attacks on an annual basis at the minimum. Some are seeing a lot more than that. Just depends on what type of website it is. An e-commerce website, for example, could see up to 1,000 attacks a week or more. And that's for a small e-commerce website. So you got to make sure that you look after security. Next one is platform subscriptions. So most of those common complex parts of your website are on a subscription basis. So a plugin might cost you $100 a year, or a couple of $100 a year. It just depends on what the functionality your website has, what it needs, and whether it's provided by a third-party plugin. So there can be costs involved with that. And then finally, when it comes to website being a one-time investment, it's time. Time is the biggest factor here, whether it's your time, the time of your developer, the time for someone to do maintenance or updates on your website, that comes at a cost. If it's your time, it's time taken away from you working in your business and working on your business and growing your business. If it's time that you're paying someone else to do, well, that's far more economical. So that's why a lot of people will tend to think and go with things such as maintenance plans, care plans, things like that. So that is myth one: a website is a one-time investment. Busted. So one of the biggest things that we see is business owners who've built a website, they don't do any of that maintenance over years, and then they wonder why when they come to see us a couple of years later that the website's falling apart. All of a sudden the forms aren't working, or there's things missing from pages that were there yesterday, and it's quite often comes down to those items that I've just mentioned in that myth. Okay, so let's look at myth number 2, which is anyone can design a website. Well, it's true. Anyone can design a website, but not everybody can design a good, effective, lead converting website. And there's reasons for that. One, it takes time to build the skills and expertise that you need to build a high quality website, and it takes an investment of time and money to make sure that you develop those skills. Then you've got things like building your marketing knowledge. As a business owner, you know your industry really well, but you don't necessarily know everything that is out there when it comes to opportunities to market your business. And that's why, yes, anyone can design a website, but it's not always going to be effective and efficient because you don't have all of the necessary skills and knowledge to make sure that you're going to do the best website. If you work in the marketing space, fantastic. You've got a great broad base, but you may not be an expert in web design. Next one is lead generation. A good website should generate leads for your business. And that is all based on the fact that you have a good understanding of your target market, your audience, your product, your business, your industry, and how all of that comes together to encourage people to leave their details with you or to purchase from you. The next one is professionalism. I see a lot of business owners who build their own website or, pay a friend to do the website because they dabble in IT or dabble in web design or things like that. And that's great. It's a great place to start. Not everybody has a budget to jump in and get a professional website built. But if your website is your first impression, then don't you want it to be a professional impression that makes people have confidence in your business? Because that's what you're paying for when you pay somebody to build a website professionally for you. And the next one is user experience. Website design and development businesses have spent a lot of time looking at websites and understanding what works best when it comes to the visitors to your website and how they are going to go about working with you, how they're going to go about finding the information they want on your website, and what's involved in getting them to take that first step. So user experience is a really important part of this website design and development process. So yes, anyone can design a website, but not everybody can build a great website. So just keep that in mind because that's myth number 2. Okay, so moving on to myth number 3, and this one is pretty important. It goes hand in hand with the previous one, and that is design is more important than functionality. So many people will come to me and they'll say, I really want the logo a bit bigger. I really don't like that color, or I don't like that image, or I want to change this, or I want to change that. You're thinking about the design being more important than the functionality. It's about having a balanced design and functionality and making sure that, you don't want to have a gigantic logo in the corner. If people are coming and looking for you, they're not looking to view your logo, they're not looking to necessarily learn about who you are and your business. They're looking to find a solution to a problem that they currently have. So, a balanced design and functionality is the key. So to look at a bit of analogy, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it doesn't stop it being a pig. That basically comes down to, you can make a website look as pretty as it likes, but if it doesn't hold up when it comes to lead generation, conversion rates, user experience, then it's still going to be a pig. And a couple of things is that you need to make sure that there is user-friendly navigation so that people can find where they're going on your website easily and quickly. And you need to make sure that performance of your website is a key factor. Most people nowadays, you've got 2 to 3 seconds to grab their attention, or they will probably go and load a different site. They'll go and look at another option. If your website takes 30 seconds to open up, well, that's not going to be conducive to a good user experience when somebody visits your website. Okay, moving on to myth number 4, which is SEO can wait until later. On-page SEO is a priority. That is the organic SEO that is done on your website, usually at the time of building your website, and then as an ongoing measure to improve your overall website rankings. So a few key points there. On-page SEO is a priority. That's where you look at keyword research, making sure that your website has good titles to draw people in, has good short descriptions, has an image that's going to display next to it, and all the general, keywords, meta descriptions, all those things that a website needs. Now, most business owners, I should say, don't necessarily have the knowledge to do on-page SEO properly. So make sure that you outsource that if you don't have the right knowledge. Good SEO practices can drive organic traffic. So your on-page SEO stuff is what we would call organic SEO. It doesn't necessarily cost you advertising money. It will probably cost you money for somebody to actually do the work and to make sure that it's maintained and that it's still tracking to get you good conversions. But it doesn't cost you advertising spend. That would be what we call advertising, like AdWords and things like that. Those cost advertising spend. But we're talking about organic SEO here. And making sure that you have good quality organic SEO. So SEO controls what Google reports. So if somebody goes, say you're a plumber, in Brisbane. So if somebody types in plumber Brisbane, if you've got that as a keyword, then Google is more likely to display your page to somebody typing in that term. Now, there's a whole pile of other factors, and that would be a video on its own. But you need to make sure that you're thinking about what somebody is going to be typing into Google and other search engines to find your website. Then you need to make sure that you tailor the right content to go with those keywords. Now, the biggest thing to remember is organic SEO is a long game. When a website's built, it can take anywhere from 3 months to 12 months for it to really start to rank properly in search engines. And it's an ongoing process. It's not something that's just done at build. It's something that's done when the website's built and then usually monitored and adjusted monthly, if not weekly, to make sure that everything is still on track. So if you're out there, you've built a website and you're wondering, hey, why am I not getting any traffic? Why am I not getting any sales through the website? It is probably because you haven't gone down the path of making sure that you have good quality organic SEO and that SEO is being maintained on a regular basis. So looking at this myth and busting it, SEO, it can't wait until later. It's something that needs to be done right from day one, and it is an ongoing process. So if you're not investing even a small amount into SEO each month, whether that's, investing time, investing money to get somebody else to do the organic SEO for you, I don't recommend doing paid ads unless you really know what you're doing, but you should be investing in organic SEO. That is probably the primary reason that you're not getting the traction that you want out of your website. Okay, moving on to the next myth. Myth number 5, which is all platforms are the same. No, not all platforms are the same. There are so many platforms out there these days. You've got WordPress, Joomla, Wix, Squarespace. There's a heap of them. Type in, online web design and platform and into Google, and you'll see just how many there are. There's a few things you need to look at because not all platforms are the same. Scalability. So things like Wix, Webflow, those sorts of platforms, they're not scalable. They are designed for a small to medium-sized business who doesn't necessarily have a lot of ongoing content changes, doesn't necessarily have 1,000 products that they plan to sell in their online store. They're designed for your average small business who just wants to get their name out there and have a little bit of basic, capabilities. If you really want to look at scalability, then you need to look at platforms that are self-hosted, such as, WordPress, Joomla. There are a few online platforms that can handle e-commerce properly, things like Shopify. Those sorts of platforms are different. You still have some limitations, but they're scalable. Next one is customization. The reason big platforms like Wix and everything work is because they control the narrative as to what you can and cannot do on your website. So there are limitations on how much you can customize. You'll notice one of the first things you do when you log into one of those platforms is choose a theme, and there might be 15, 20 different theme options there. And that's great. You can pick one that's, fairly close to yours. You can customize it, but you can't really go outside the realm of what's being provided. There's a few little tricks of the trade and things like that you can incorporate. But if we want to look at customization, we look at things like WordPress and Joomla. You've got the choice of thousands of themes and unlimited customization because those platforms are hosted on your own server, and they have the ability for you to, alter the code, make changes to layouts that are beyond the scope of some of those other platforms. Next one is load times. You have very little control over things like load times on platforms like Wix and Squarespace and Webflow because they're already optimized for their system. So it's going to then come down to, sizes of your images, all those sorts of things. And if those things are too much, too big, you're not going to have that control. Where some of the other platforms, you can, use caching systems, you can use image optimization and compression plugins that will do all of those sorts of things for you and help increase how quickly your website loads. On top of that, you've got the ability to pay for a better server. We've worked with quite a few hosting companies over the years, platforms like WP Engine, which are extremely fast, high-performance website hosting platforms. By investing that extra money into a good quality hosting provider, you have better chance of getting good load times, where Wix and Squarespace and things like that, they're hosted for you. You don't pick your hosting provider. It's included. You are stuck with what you're stuck with. Which brings me to another point. You can't literally pick up a website from Wix and move it to another platform because it's all proprietary. So if you had a design you really liked built on Wix and you all of a sudden went, hey, I need to scale now, I need a WordPress site, and you want to keep the same site, you can't do that. You need to have that site rebuilt onto a new platform, which is going to cost you more money in the long run. UX and UI restrictions, I've sort of covered that already, but there are limitations with some online platforms as to what you can and cannot do. Extended functionality. Once again, most online platforms will have most of the functionality that an average business needs. To give you an example, we've got a client who is in personal training space. They have quite a large website, quite a lot of subscribers. They've got a membership platform. They've got e-commerce. They've got an affiliate program and a lot of other complex extended functions. Now, some of the online platforms will allow you to do that, but usually you've got to move to a more specific platform like Kajabi or something like that that can handle those particular functions. Where if you're using a platform like WordPress or Joomla, you just need a really good quality host, the money to pay for the plugins, and the ability to get it all built and set up. And then you own that, you control the narrative. And then obviously looking back at the previous myth, SEO capabilities, a lot of the online platforms will cover the basics of SEO, but they don't necessarily cover all of the things needed to make a really good quality website and to make a website perform online. Sure, they're getting better. Webflow's, pretty good with it. Wix has been a bit of a dog for it in the past, but it's definitely getting better. But ultimately, you want a good quality platform that you can control the narrative on and that is going to really cover all of the functionality that you want. And if you can afford it, go with it from day one. Because moving platforms later is going to end up costing you more money than, what it would have cost you just to go that way in the first place. Okay, and on to the final myth for this video. Web development is a solo task. Web development is not a solo task. If you think you can sit down and DIY your own website all by yourself, go for it. But if you want to keep in mind, there's a bit of a formula that I usually work on, and that is grab whatever your hourly rate is. If it's $30, $40, $50 an hour, a lot of the clients we work with, they could be upwards of $100 to $200 an hour. And then multiply that by a minimum of 80 hours, because that's what it's going to take for you to build your own decent website. Not a great website, not an awesome, high converting website, a decent website. It's going to cost you more time than that if you want a better website. When it comes to building a website, you need designers. They're the people who come up with the design, the plan, the overall look and feel of your website. Then you need developers. They're the people who actually put that design into practice and actually develop the website for you. Then you need content creators. They're the people who help you to write your content for your pages so that you are getting great page content that is ready to convert. It's attracting visitors to take an action. Then you need an SEO specialist, somebody to actually help you market your website. You need social media people to help you market your website. You will need a branding expert, someone to make sure that across your website, your social media, your SEO, anything that you put out publicly matches. And then you're going to need a marketing strategist. You're going to need somebody who is basically your right-hand person in the trenches with you saying, right, this is the best option for achieving this particular goal or getting this particular result. So web development is not a solo task. It is a task that will always get better results if you have designers, developers, content creators, SEO specialists, social media specialists, brand experts, and marketing strategists in your corner. There are so many ways to get those. You can talk to an agency that does the lot. You can talk to a web designer. They will generally know other people who can be brought on to do that task. Most web designers can help you with a fairly substantial part of that list. But ultimately, web development is not a solo task. It is something that is always going to be a group task. Okay, So they're the 6 myths that I wanted to bust today, and they're common myths that we're asked about probably on a weekly basis, or things that we see, in the groups that we follow on Facebook and LinkedIn, where people are asking these types of questions, or they're saying, hey, look, a friend of mine's just built me a website and I'm not getting any traffic to it. It's because of these main myths that people are having those experiences. So if I was to give you any suggestions, before you jump in and build a website, or if you've got a website that isn't performing, have a look back at all of these myths and take a look at the items individually and see if you've missed a step somewhere. Because 9 times out of 10, you've missed a step somewhere, and that is what's causing you to not see the performance that you actually want to see. Okay, so until our next video, I hope that you've gotten something out of this. Web development in general and having a website for a small business, it's not something that you can take lightly. It's not a simple one-off investment. It's not something that you need to do on your own. Just remember that when it comes to marketing your business, the more people you have around you that can provide advice, the better the scenario is going to play out for you in the long run. Okay, see you in the next video.